Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my February wrap-up, and I think I have 7 or 8 things to talk about in only one DNF. So it has been a really mixed month for me, as low as 2.5 and all the way up to a very strong 4. So without further ado, we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna start it off with a low point. So we can only go up from here. So I read Tides by Sara Freeman. The blurb is talking about a woman who is escaping something tragic that happened, and she's finding herself again in this like sleepy seaside town. So I do like female main characters, and I do love sleepy towns and the seaside. So that's why I requested it from NetGalley. Wish I didn't, because there are just so many things about this that I wish had been more explicitly stated. If you don't want any spoilers, skip to when you see the book cover change. But I'm just gonna get into it. So the reason why she's running away from her family and her friends and everyone she knows is because she had a stillbirth, and it's very traumatic. But she just ups and leaves and like decides she's gonna get away from her whole family, everyone who knows her, doesn't tell them anything, goes to like grieve in her own way by the seaside, by not eating, trying to commit suicide by drowning, cheating with like a random guy who owns a shop who gives her a job, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is really not the book for me. It's really not the book, and the end just left me wondering like what was the point of this book. I understand what they were probably going for, like I said, spoilers, death and rebirth, but I really didn't like it, and I really don't recommend it. And I really wish that it had the trigger warning for child death or traumatic pregnancy, because I've given birth 4 months ago now, and if I had known that, I really wouldn't have read it, because it's a little fresh in my mind. So it was just not a good experience all around. Don't recommend. So then after that, I decided to read something also sea-themed that I just didn't end up finishing in January. So I finished The Raven and the Banshee by Carolyn, which is another arc that I got from NetGalley, and I actually quite enjoyed this one. So this is about 2 young women who are kind of star-crossed in that one of them is the daughter of a shipping magnate, and the other one is the daughter of a captain for one of the magnate's ships. The captain father is sent to set up a new port, and he's taking his family with him, so they're going to be separated. But as he does that with his family, they're set upon by pirates, and all hands are presumed lost. Fast forward, I think it's like 15 or 20 years, and the daughter of the magnate is now like the head of the shipping company, and she's going to set up another port in the Caribbean, and her ship is waylaid by pirates, and she's saved by the infamous Raven, who, it's not a spoiler, I'm pretty sure it's on the back, is the only survivor of that initial ship attack. So she's saved, and they meet up again. So it's like a second chance at love. It's also a tale of revenge on the high seas, which is pretty cool. So I liked aspects of it a lot. I really loved that one was like a shipping heiress who's also a sailor, and the other one is obviously a ship captain slash like, what's it called? Mercenary. Not a pirate, but like a mercenary captain. I really liked that. However, there were some weak points that brought it down to a 3.5 for me. I think that the villain was really poorly done. Like, such a black and white copy-paste villain. We learn nothing about why the villain is so evil, why he does what he does. Nothing. We're just told he is evil, we must hate him. And I really don't like when they do that, because stories make more sense when villains have a backstory, and villains have like a reason for their actions. It just makes sense. No one in reality just operates in a vacuum, so I don't like it when writers neglect to detail their villains. On the flip side, something really good that the book did was the intimate or like sexy scenes between the two main characters was actually amazing. I find, much to my annoyance, that so often, and I don't know why this is, in FF romance or FF, anytime there's a scene between two women, especially in romance though, they fade to black. And I'm like, why? Women deserve to be written on the page just as much as any other pairing. It's really annoying to me, and this book did not do that, so I really appreciated that. I'm just looking at my review. So yeah, the romance tropes in here: second chance romance, grumpy sunshine, forced proximity, and sick caretaker tropes. And then, yeah, I just have lesbian mercenary ship captain romance story. Which, if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Yeah, so I'll be looking out for more from this author in the future. Hopefully their writing might mature a little bit and their villains will be more fleshed out. Okay, after that, I was like, okay, I want another kind of romance, but with like some maybe darker elements. So I picked up Rules of Arrangement by Maren Mackenzie. And this was both what I was expecting and what I was not expecting. So this is probably my favorite of February. Oh, one of my top 2 favorites of February. This is like kind of a retelling of 50 Shades, only nothing ever gets that dark. So it's a few shades lighter. It's like a lot of shades lighter, mixed into like the art world. So we're following a university student who is trying to make ends meet, and in order to do so, she writes papers for other people, which is like really illegal. She would get expelled, but there's no other way to make as much money as she needs to like live and go to school. So one day, her TA, who is also like a childhood friend, stumbles upon her making these deals and blackmails her into spying on this figure that her childhood friend knows. So there was some drama between them. She's not sure what, but her friend is an artist who was thwarted and like cast out of the art society by this really renowned art dealer. So basically the friend blackmails her and is like, get a deal with him because he makes contracts with women where they'll be his like arm candy for a few months, and then you part amicably because he doesn't want strings attached. So I want you to weasel your way in there and become his new like partner for a while. So that's what she does, and things go from there. I must say, I couldn't put this book down, and that's why I'm giving it like a 4 stars. There were a lot of things about the book that I didn't love so much. There's an on-page suicide attempt, which I'm really not a fan of. Like, extremely not a fan of. But I was a fan of the bickering and like the tension between the 2 leads. The kind of older art dealer and the younger university student who is essentially tricking him, but he thinks he's tricking her, so they both think they're tricking each other. And they are, to some point, in certain ways. And I found it fascinating, like the whole art aspect of it. But really, this is just more of a character study of those 2 characters, more so than the 50 Shades or the like revenge or like spying plot. I just, you have to let go of what you think is going to happen and just kind of like relax into what she's experiencing as she's experiencing like this world and the blackmail and stuff. So I gave it 4 stars. I couldn't put it down, but it is like heavily flawed. So if you want to know more triggers and more in-depth thoughts, my Goodreads review link is always down below. So next after that, I read Things Have Gotten Worse by LaRocca. And this is a weird little gem. So this is following 2 women who meet in an online chat room when one of them is trying to sell an apple peeler. And if this isn't Chekhov's apple peeler, I don't know what is. I was so waiting for something to happen with that apple peeler. But this is really a tale of power exchange and power imbalance, and what you will do in order to feel important to someone, I think. And it does get dark and it does get gross. But I think the main reason I gave it 3.5, even though I really liked the dark content, I didn't like the representation of sadomasochism in here. And it also says like sadomasochism in the back. I would agree with sadism in its classical sense, not in a BDSM way. Because I think that the whole like contract that they draft up in here, it has nothing to do with BDSM. So like the holy trinity of BDSM contracts, or like power exchange, is safe, sane, and consensual. And it's not safe, it's not sane, and it's barely consensual. Like there's a lot of gaslighting and like manipulation. So I really don't like it when, as soon as it says sadomasochism on the back, people are gonna think this is BDSM. And I just would argue against that. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's definitely interesting, like interesting enough that I will read more by this author for sure, but not to the level that I would have liked to recommend to other people as like one of my favorite dark weird books, if that makes sense. It's definitely weird, but I found it kind of unsatisfying, yet original. So that's why it has a 3.5, because I'm torn. And then after that, I completely departed from that darkness, and I read an arc I had from NetGalley called Imani's Undersea Adventure. This is a children's illustrated book about Imani, who is going to the aquarium with her grandfather. And it's about 3 main things: scuba divers, sharks, and Black history. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think it's the highest rated book I've read so far this year, which is amazing that it's a children's book. And I said, like, I will be buying this for our daughter. It's way beyond her. The words are very big, so not for quite a while. But basically, Imani, because she's so little, she has a lot of misconceptions. She thinks that sharks are scary, and the grandfather walks her back and explains like why they're not, and some cool facts about them. And I really appreciated that, because one of my degrees is in marine biology, and I'm also a dive master, and I've dove with so many sharks, and they're so lovely, and I really hate that they get maligned and that people are so scared of them. So it's great to see that in a children's book. Number 2, scuba divers. Obviously, I'm so into diving that I love to see it explained in an easy to access way for younger readers. And then like the third part is Black history. So there's different parts. It brings up just enough to bring up the discussion of these topics where you could have further discussion, but not enough that it takes away from focusing on Imani and her grandfather at the aquarium. So it briefly brings up slavery, taking treasures and artifacts from the ocean floor that are from these ships and from other civilizations, and also the premier female Black scuba divers, and also the premier, like, I believe, marine archaeologists of the Black community, which, to be fair, I only knew one because I've been a long time Sylvia Earle fangirl, basically before I even started my degree, like since I was so little. So it will be absolutely excellent to dive more into the leading and premier Black divers. I think that will be excellent when our daughter is old enough. Like I said, there's a lot of big words, so I reckon it won't be at least 5 or 6 maybe years old. But yeah, it was excellent. So if you have a young reader, I highly, highly recommend it. All right, and then after that, I read the other book in the month that I gave a low star, but I wasn't expecting a lot. So as I've said before, my mom in America reads basically exclusively romance. So she just sends me some whenever she sends a box here. And she sent me this one. This is The Seduction of Scandal by Cathy Maxwell. I'm not really going to say a lot about it. It's a historical romance. I gave it 2.5 stars. It wasn't one of the better ones. It's quite old in a lot of the romance patterns and a lot of the cliches. But I guess I'll just say the romance tropes in case you want to know. Arranged marriage, runaway bride, injured/caretaker, Robin Hood, love interest. So if those sound interesting to you, maybe check this out. But as for me, I am gonna donate it. So the penultimate one is the only DNF of the month, and it is The Sex Lives of African Women by Nene Darkoa Sekyiamah, who is a Ghanaian writer. She compiled a collection of memoir short stories from women all over the African continent, as well as members of the African diaspora living elsewhere, and just documenting their sexual journeys. So it is quite intriguing because every story is unique, and you get all sorts of voices. Happy marriages, really traumatic childhoods, a lot of polyamory, a lot of queer relationships, which I thought the author made an excellent kind of point that it's no coincidence that a lot of the women that she is interviewing turned to polyamory or queer relationships or things outside of the norm because of some of the more restrictive ways that their societies in all the different countries kind of treat women. So especially the people who are living abroad or who are living within more accepting female spaces would turn to alternative means of pleasure. The reason I DNF'd it though is because I got about 40% of the way through and the stories were starting to blend together because you only read about a person for maybe 2 to 4 pages. So it's such a short time to spend with each person that I started to feel like everything was blurring together and I couldn't remember one from the other. And I don't really like when that happens with short stories or like with any sort of anthology collection. I feel like it means that the collection doesn't have really distinct voices. And the other thing I will say is that there is a lot of cheating. Nearly every single story had cheating. One of the main things I hate reading about is cheating. I just really don't like it. I think it messes up other people for like possibly a lifetime. So I just was not a fan of that. I know that it happens in real life. I'm not like naive, but I also just don't want to read it. So those two things combined, I just decided to DNF it at 40%. But if those things don't bother you, then maybe check it out. So the last book that I read in February is Manhunt by Gretchen Felker-Martin. This is a wild ride. She is a trans woman writing about the trans experience in a gendered apocalypse. Okay, so imagine that if there was a virus where all men, when they get a certain level of testosterone, become basically monsters. So this book follows 2 main characters who are both trans women. So we have Beth, who is known as a brick, which means that she cannot pass as a woman no matter how much makeup she applies or like what clothes she wears, but she wants nothing more than to do so. And the other woman we follow is Fran, who does pass easily because she's of like slighter build and more slender, and yes, she can pass quite easily. And they are caught up in this world where suddenly, because they are pre-surgery trans women, they have to find a way to keep their testosterone levels down and their estrogen levels up so that they don't become the monsters that are all around them. So when the book opens, they're literally hunting men to harvest their balls so that they can eat them. And if that isn't both horrifying, fascinating, and disgusting, I don't know what is, but that sets the tone for the whole book. There is also a like turf militia, which is out to basically kill all the men and also eradicate all the trans women who they obviously do not accept as real women. And it is about Beth and Fran's journey. And along the way, they pick up another really important character, Robbie, who is a trans man, and he rescues them when they are in trouble. And the three of them go to kind of the fourth main character, who is Indy, who is a doctor who is really stuck because of her extreme weight. So she can't really escape and move around as quickly. So she decides to make a deal with a local like bunker brat who has a safe bunker below ground. She'll work for her if her and the three friends, Beth, Fran, and Robbie, can come with her, and things are kind of going from there. This is an absolutely wild ride. I couldn't stop reading until I did. So I stopped reading when I thought something really bad was going to happen to Beth, because, spoiler alert, Beth is my absolute favorite character of all time. Robbie and Indy are also good, and I hate Fran with like a burning passion. I'm absolutely biased and I hate her. And the reason I hate her, I'm going to say a spoiler, so if you don't want a spoiler, just like skip ahead a little bit. There's a point where Beth falls into a heap of men and is violently raped on the page. And not only did I hate that scene, and I almost DNF'd it in that moment, because I don't think it was necessary to write that in. We understand the world is dark. We understand the potential for rape. We don't need to be in her head as that's happening. But Fran did not help her. Fran did not even try to help her. And I hated her ever since that. Yes, but this is just a very complicated book, and I think some things it did really well. The fight scenes were very intense. The world building was excellent. And I think some of the characterization was excellent and some of it was extremely weak. I think, again, I had a problem with the villains. Why are they acting that way so badly? Like so badly. I didn't really believe that their backstory would make them do that. I also really didn't like the monster rape scene. That was absolutely bad. And I mean, this story has like all the triggers. Check out my Goodreads review if you want to know them all. But that especially was like the worst. And I think that the ending was really a sizzle. Like it really just kind of fizzled out. A fizzle, not a sizzle. A fizzle. It fizzled out, and like the expectations that I had just did not come to fruition. So I felt like a little bit let down. And the last thing I wanted to mention about this book is that one of my subscribers brought to my attention that there was some drama, I think a while ago, on Twitter, which I'm not a part of, about this author saying some stuff about straight passing. Queer couples don't experience hate or something along those lines. So I will leave what I find here if that's interesting to you. As you know, I do not separate art from artist, so I will have to sit with my feelings about what I find and see if I want to read from her anymore. Yeah, but that is everything. Oh, I didn't mention Manhunt. I gave 3.5 stars. I think just a few things brought it down, but it was still really, I think, compelling of a read. So flawed, but absolutely captivating. So there you have it. It was a really mixed bag this month. Yeah, but there you go. And I just want to say that so far in March, I'm reading some great horror and weird stuff. It's off to a banging start. It's gonna be so good. Yeah, so I hope that you are also reading really good books right now. And yeah, I will see you in another video soon. Lots of love. Bye!